You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello there, and welcome back to Wildside, the official Mondo Macabro podcast. Here with me, as oftentimes, we've got Mr. Jared Honor. Jared, thank you for taking time from your busy announcement posting schedule to come and talk about those announcements that you were posting. Welcome.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I just literally got done posting one of those announcements. So, yeah, literally came straight from social media. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm so beyond thrilled today because somebody else is on the show, and it's somebody that you have all probably heard the name and hopefully the voice of if you're listening to your special features, because that is very important. Joined today by the esteemed Mr. Pete Toombs. Pete, thanks for hanging out.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for asking me. And esteemed is not a word that's normally associated with me, so I'd have to look it up in the dictionary. What does it mean? Yeah.
From what I'm reading, it says lightly poached. Oh, dang it! I looked up the wrong word.
No, I'm more than lightly poached at the moment.
Well, it's the Halloween season, which in Mondo Macabro world, that means it's an important time of year. We got new announcements. We got a sale, and depending on when you purchase your things or how you purchase your things, it is a time for many people to finally break the bank on lots of titles they've been waiting on for Mondo Macabro, because now they're going to be at the best prices they're at all year. Jared, how's the season been prepping for all this?
Busy for sure. Yeah, there's a lot going on all at once. So yeah, kind of getting everything, all the ducks lined up in a row and everything. It's been busy. But I think there's been a good reaction so far, so I'm cautiously optimistic about the prospects for the sale. So hopefully everything will go well.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear there's been a good reaction or any reaction. So I tend not to track these things. So I'm always a little bit nervous. I mean, sometimes when I first drew up the list, or we first drew up the list, I looked at those and I thought, I don't know, that's a bit of a weird list, but now I've actually kind of think it's a pretty good one. I mean, one of the best ones we've done, actually.
Pete, I'd like to ask, have you met Mondo Macabro? Because a weird list is kind of what it is. That's the thing.
That's pretty much what we specialize in, I think. Weird lists of movies.
I look in the mirror sometimes and I'm shocked. Who is that guy?
Well, Pete, as it's your first time on here, let's get a little bit of introduction for everybody that's not only heard you, on commentaries and pieces for Mondo Macabro. How did you get started in this whole world? Because you've been doing this for a good 7 to 8 months, something like that, from what I'm hearing.
I think it's about 9 months actually. Yeah. We're just about to give birth. 9 months later. It's a scary. I was thinking the other day, actually, how long have I been doing this stuff for? I almost used a rude word there. It's a long, long time. It's over 20 years, and actually, I think it's probably over 25 years. And before that, with the books and things, and the TV stuff and so on, it's going back way into the early 90s. I mean, I was thinking, the other day, I was looking for some stuff. And working out, that I kind of first went to. I went to India. I've been to India a number of times, but when I first went to India to try and sort some Mondo type stuff, that would have been about 1992. It's a long time ago. And I think many of the people that we met then, like Tulsi Ramsey and so on, are no longer with us now. So it's It seems an age, and it's kind of a bit scary, actually. You think, what the hell have you done with your life? Well, I sort of put out some strange films.
I think that's very worthwhile, personally.
Thank you. You have to say that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm contractually obligated to say that.
So, so it goes back a long way. But, it goes back way before then.
Right.
And I think, I was interviewed some while ago by somebody else, kind of not about this, but it came into the picture, and I was thinking, beforehand, I was thinking, how did I get into this? And I think I don't want to get too serious. God forbid, you know.
Please
But
do.
I think I was quite ill when I was a kid, like a young kid. And I spent some time in a kind of isolation ward. I mean, this was a long time ago, you know, because I'm ancient. The hospitals were a bit primitive in those days. And I was in this kind of like a glass room, you know. It was like a room with big windows. Obviously, I'm remembering now something that happened a long time ago. And my family couldn't come and see me other than we couldn't make physical contact. They could just wave at me through this kind of big glass window. And I have this strange memories from that time, you know, and things like there was a girl in the next room who was all blue. You know, I don't even know if I was hallucinating or saw these things, but there was a lot of strange things. And I think, you know, that I was a very, very young age, and I think that maybe that is one of the things that kind of gave me a taste for the bizarre, for the strange. You know, it's something like that. You know, I was talking to many years ago. I was talking to another filmmaker who made a lot of fantastical, weird type films, and he said that, you know, all of us who are into this kind of stuff, we all something happened to us at an early age, and we all feel that the world isn't quite right, and perhaps needs remaking. And I think that's definitely, you know, kind of part of where I come from. And the second thing I would say, I remember we went up to stay with my grandmother. Me and my father went up to stay with my grandmother, who lived in the north of England. And I was probably around about 12, I guess. You know, it's quite an important age, isn't it? 12, you're starting to no longer be a child, but you're not quite an adult. You're growing into an adult, age of 12, 13. You know, you're thinking about the world. And I remember my father gave me this book. You know, we took some things that he'd had as a kid, you know, to bring back to our place, because we lived in the south of England, in London, in fact. And he gave me this book, which was a collection of Edgar Allan Poe stories, and said, "Oh, you might like this. I read this when I was a kid." And you know, I don't think I'd probably ever heard of Edgar Allan Poe, but you know, obviously that's a major thing in the world of kind of fantastical stuff that we're talking about. And I read those, and that kind of started me off, you know, reading, looking for horror stories, horror books, reading horror stories and things. And it seemed to be this kind of particular period. It seemed to be there was a revival, certainly in the UK, of kind of horror stuff. You know, H.P. Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith, you know, all those guys, and collections of stories coming out in paperback, probably for the first time. And I hunted those things down, you know, and had a huge collection of these kinds of things. And I suppose that's all connected, isn't it? You know, that's sort of where you get a taste for these things. And and movies, though, I think came later. You know, I mean, we were all quite lucky in the UK because we had some. You know, there was some channel, because we only had like 3 channels. In fact, I think in those days when I'm talking about, we probably only had 2 channels. Believe it or not, and we haven't got that many now, you know. But and there was one of those where they used to play sort of late night kind of horror movies, and one where they played kind of art movies, you know, like Antonioni and stuff like that. And they would have a guy would come up at the front, you know, before the film started, a film critic. And it would tell you a little bit about what the film is about and giving it context and so on. Then you'd see the movie. And we had Italian, there was neo-realist stuff then, as I say, Antonioni. There was Brazilian cinema novo, came up in that strand, which was quite amazing, really. And I think I started to put all these things together in a way, you know, what do I like? I kind of like these things, I don't like those things. And I used to go to the cinema. I've jumped ahead a bit now. When I was old enough to go to the cinema, I used to go maybe 3 or 4 times a week. I remember my mother was quite worried about me. You know, is it healthy to spend all this time in the cinema? You know? It was a battle she could never win. So, you know, and I guess Hammer stuff. You know, I kind of you know, came across that at a young age. I mean, I was too young to go and see these films. But some of those Hammer films were classified A in the UK, which meant that they were not suitable for children, but you could go in if you were accompanied by an adult. And we used to stand outside the cinema, This was a very kind of rough, what we call flea pit cinema. You don't have that expression, I guess, in America. You would say grindhouse, I suppose, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And we would stand outside the cinema. We'd wait for somebody going in. There's a guy with his girlfriend or something. And we'd say, "Oh, mister, can we come in? Can we come in and film with you?" And they'd go, "What?" We'd say, "Well, they won't let us in otherwise, And there was a kind of a feeling, I definitely remember from those times, of a kind of communal thing, and everybody was in this film. I mean, obviously all these people, if you got your girlfriend with you, you probably gone for things other than watching the film, but there was this feeling that all these people were in there together, to see this film, and we were part of this kind of, communal group. Obviously we didn't know any of these people, but there was that kind of thing, that it's almost like a club that we're all sort of members of, because most of the films I'm talking about, the shows in that cinema, they were not first run films or even second run films. They were probably third run films. The Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe films, for example. I saw all those in that kind of in that place and in that kind of in that environment. And that kind of gave me a taste for these things, but also that you have to seek them out. That you wouldn't necessarily get them in your big major cinema in town. You'd have to find this scuzzy place, where you discover these strange films. And I never knew what was going to be on. We just used to go there, and it was like on a Sunday afternoon quite often, and they'd play like maybe 3 films, and there was really strange stuff that I didn't know anything about, of course, because there was no internet. I mean, there were books about horror films, Carlos Claren's book and so on, but they were all a bit, about Boris Karloff and that kind of period, 30s, 40s horror films. I don't think there was much about contemporary stuff, that was coming out then. So there was a kind of a sense of us discovering something and, kind of looking for it. And obviously this was years before video. I mean, that came in... When did video start? VHS, where you could buy? I mean, 30 years ago, I suppose. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, because I used to collect little 8mm. They call them cut downs. I don't know if you know what that is. Yeah, I used to collect these. And they're completely crazy when you get a feature film and you cut it down to 10 minutes. And quite often they didn't have soundtracks, so you were just looking at these. Bizarre, and I can remember even way back then, I was a little kid thinking, wouldn't it be great if you had your own library of films that you could? yeah, seriously. I mean, I can remember thinking that, and of course that's what we've got now, isn't it? So I don't know if that gives you. I don't know. Rambling there. I don't know if that gives you any kind of an idea of where we're going and what you wanted to know. But there you go, some of it.
It helps a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that have not even heard some of that about you. I mean, it's, kind of classic Mondo Macabro that a lot of this starts with things like Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, the basis for a lot of the weird and, the tagline being the wild side of cinema starts with things like, I don't know, being 6 years old and reading The Telltale Heart and trying to realize, oh, well, this is dark, but for some reason I'm intrigued and I want more like this. And you've taken that to lead into TV series and books and now home video for decades at this point. The response to everything in the 90s and what we're seeing over the last, 10 years of how the home video market has changed, how do you feel like the audiences have developed over those 30 years?
I think it must be a different audience, I think we're getting different audiences because when we first started doing this, which my time thing, as you can tell, is really quite bad. But I suppose when did we start? Jared advised me. When did Mondo start putting stuff out? In the early
2000s, I believe.
2000s, yeah.
Like 2003 or 4?
Late 90s. I think we had some stuff late 90s on our first label. So
there was the Pagan label in the late 90s.
Pagan, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that was all VHS, so it was way before DVD even. Sorry, what was the question? What was the question?
How has the audience changed over that period of time?
Okay. there wasn't really much of an audience for the kind of stuff that the kind of stuff that we're doing now. I don't know, but there was, I don't know, there was specialist horror labels. I don't think there were. I mean, the person who comes to mind, is the guy, is the Redemption guy. Nigel Wingrove. You probably know who he is or who he was. And that was quite an important meeting. I'd always credit Nigel with being a pioneer in that sense. That he discovered, there was all these old European mostly horror movies that were sitting in catalogs, distributor catalogs, and could be picked up very cheaply at the time. And if you marketed them in the right kind of way and made it look like, going back to what I was saying about those flea pit cinemas, if you made it look like you were joining a club of some sort when you bought these things, you bought into this kind of lifestyle thing, I think that was probably an important kind of thing. And he was doing that in the mid 90s or late 90s, I can't remember. I know I went to see him very early on when he was starting the label, and he was asking me questions about what films we should put out and that kind of stuff. And that made me think that, hey, look, there might be something here. Maybe this is something that we could do.
Yes.
And I'd had we had the TV stuff. Andy and me were doing some TV stuff, which is probably parallel to that, or maybe slightly before that. Where we discovered there was late night slots on UK TV on Channel 4, and that you could play these strange films and you could put documentaries and short films and things on. And that was what we started to do. And I think that was really the roots of the video label, because when we were buying stuff for for screening on TV, because they give us a budget and then we could go and try and do deals with all these people who own these strange films, we would pick up the video rights as well. For the UK, this was all the UK at the time. And so the TV show would pay for acquiring the rights, and then we would put the video out on VHS. They were all VHS at the time, so it was a kind of an added sort of bonus, yeah. And we used to do some mail order stuff and so on. I mean, it was difficult to get these things into shops, but we used to do mail order stuff, and people would write strange letters asking, do you know where are you going to release this film? Have you heard of this film?
We still get those messages.
Yeah, I know we do. And in many cases, I know a little bit more now. In many cases, I didn't know what these films were. And there weren't really that many places you could look these things up. And certainly when I was a young kid and I started getting interested in these kinds of films, there was of course no internet, and there were no books. As I said before, there were no books really that dealt with this kind of stuff. It was very kind of underground. I mean, I was aware that these films were commercial. They'd been made by maybe the B unit of a major film producer, but they were sort of underground in that kind of sense. It was commercial underground, and that was the kind of stuff that I kind of liked, because the other films are being talked about by everybody. You see them reviewed in the newspapers, you see them reviewed on television. I kind of liked the idea that there were these crazy people making these little films that were shown in cinemas, rather like the one I mentioned, the third run cinema that we used to go to. And maybe there was something there of interest, and then of course, you discovered people like Roland, Franco, of course, some of whose films I actually managed to see in London. I didn't know what they were. But, it was kind of very random, but it all sort of comes together, and you see something forming. And there was a couple of books. I should be honest about it. There were a couple of books. Dave Peary, does that name mean anything to you?
Sure does.
He was a UK writer, and he did a couple of books. He did one on the vampire, which was really quite interesting and quite useful, and that had something about Roland in it, and lots of pictures from his films.
Is that the Seal of Dracula book?
No, the Seal of Dracula was before that. There was a guy called Barry Patterson, who is Australian.
Oh, of course, right.
And in my book is a real hero of this kind of stuff, and I think completely forgotten about. I don't even know if he's still alive. And he did a book about vampires, as you said, Seal Dracula. And he was the first place, I think, that I saw covered things from the Philippines, South Latin America, and all that kind of stuff. And there was a film there, which we later released, called "The Sadist with Red Teeth," the Sadique Dents Rouge. Nice. I can't remember what we called it when we released it on video. But
Sadist with Red Teeth, yeah.
Sadist with Red Teeth, yeah. And that was a film that I wanted to. When I saw the thing in Barry's book, and I was like, "Wow, this sounds amazing." And I think he mentioned that it was similar to Ryan films. And it was years and years and years, decades before I actually managed to find that film and find out who owned the rights to it. And we released it. It was on a double bill, wasn't it, with a kind of a Mondo documentary type thing. And I can remember, and I really loved the film. I still do. But I can remember that it got the worst reviews we've ever had. Yeah, it really did. I actually got people writing into us and saying, well, maybe this was online at the time. I think on the IMDb in those days, you could post your little messages, couldn't you? I think they took that away, that facility. And somebody complained about the film, and I said, I have to tell you, this is my favourite probably of all the films we released. And he said, if you release another film like this, I'm not going to buy anything more off you. I mean, I hope that person, if that person is listening, I absolutely appreciate what he said, and I'm not being, I'm not being rude or whatever, not insulting you, but we've all got different tastes, and I mean, it's still happening. I mean, old as I am, I'm in the Horrible Sexy Vampire, which we released a couple of years ago. That got similar kind of terrible reviews, and it's also a film that I love.
I saw someone just mentioned the other day. They think it's their least favorite Mondo Macabro.
Yeah, and absolutely, that's people's right to do that. To like things and to rank things and the rest of it. But for me personally, I mean, I wouldn't have released the film if we didn't think it was. If we didn't fall in love with it. And I kind of, if these films have worlds, the world of Horrible Sexy Vampire is one I would love to live in.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, it has this special atmosphere that it feels almost cozy. You just kind of want to wrap yourself around, get yourself wrapped up in the film itself. I feel the same way as Pete. I really like that one, and I like Sadist with Red Teeth. So
you'd want to go to that castle, wouldn't you, where the strange vampire lives, and you want to kind of sit down and talk to him. What's your problem, mate? Let's sort it out. Let's go to that weird wine bar thing where all those girls work. Let's go there and talk this thing through. So take this quite personally, I suppose, these kinds of things, and. I accept that, a lot of these films are pretty silly if you would look at the broad scheme of things. But hopefully they've all got something, and they've all got something as far as we're concerned. I don't think we've ever put out any. Actually, I can think of a couple of examples that I won't mention, but I don't think we've ever put out things just because we thought they would make money.
That's a good sign.
Obviously, you want to make some money. You want to survive and do carry on doing more of it, but. It's you've got to be selective. You've got to go for what you like, and I think when, which is maybe connected to the question you asked half an hour ago, but maybe when you get to the point where you can't find anything anymore that gets you excited or that you love, that you fall in love with, that's the point where you say, "I'm going to go and do something else." And I'm a long way away from that. We both are a long way away from that. Fingers tightly crossed here.
Yeah,
I gotta admit that's a really inspiring way to leave that at the end there. It's something when everybody's, of course, we can probably say for the last 45 years people have been saying physical media is dead or dying, and for somebody that's been doing this for decades to be able to say I'm nowhere near that point, that means so much to somebody like me. I love to hear that. Oh,
thank you. That's nice to hear. It's funny with the social media, with this physical media, Physical, that's funny as well, but physical media stuff, and I've talked about this with Jared, he will probably remember this. that when back when we were doing it in the sort of 90s, 2000s, there was Anchor Bay, there was Image, there was a couple of kind of big players, and when they stopped doing it, particularly Image, stopped doing these kinds of weird Euro type films. I can remember sort of saying to Andy, "Well, that's it. We're last men standing. It's going to be, it's our world now." And then, of course, kind of like mushrooms springing up overnight, suddenly there's all these video labels, and it's incredible. And that's probably in the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years, is it? I suppose.
Absolutely. I last year, I think it was, I did a check for the number of boutique home video companies worldwide that have been active, in quotes, that have put out at least one, or I think I tried to say at least 2 titles within the previous 12 calendar months. And I just plain stopped counting at 150.
Oh God, no! That's scary, isn't
it? Oh, but that's worldwide. Although, of course, most of them all want to release in the U.S. eventually. Anyway,
of course.
Yeah.
You've got to send me that list, and I'm going to hire an assassin to go around and get rid of it.
Cut that out. Cut that. Don't include that in the edit.
Everybody who's listening, I don't mean it. I'm only joking.
For legal reasons, he doesn't mean it, but also watch your back. No, for Mondo Macabro fans specifically, this is like the epitome of the home video stuff, because no matter what, most of us, I say most of us that are loving what Mondo Macabro does, pretty much every round of titles, there's at least one that we've never even heard of, let alone given ourselves the opportunity to see. And it's companies like that that are most exciting. We're not getting, I don't know, the 8th release of The Stepfather from Mondo Macabro. We're not seeing 7 cover art options a la Anchor Bay of Evil Dead sitting in Best Buy due to Mondo Macabro. And it just feels special and different. And obviously the historical table has been set for that by Pete Toombs. So it's incredible that you're here to talk about it.
Well, it's a pleasure. I don't talk about it very often. I mean, I don't talk about it with my wife, She knows what we do. She goes, "Oh God, do we have to watch one of these?" Yes, we do. I mean, but that's good, isn't it? I mean, that's the way it is. People are different.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, my wife's big time into Korean stuff, So
nice.
We do have, we have that in common.
Oh, that's nice. I'm not sure I realized that. No, that's.
She's a big fan of The Wailing.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah.
I want Jared to be able to get some sleep tonight. So let's share these titles that people are going to be able to be excited for coming up in this sale. So, Jared, you've been quiet. Why don't you tell us about the first title that was announced as part of our slate?
Well, the first one announced was Devil's Nightmare. The sort of Belgian, Italian, sort of gothic horror from early 70s, I guess. Yeah. We, of course, released that on Blu-ray, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. I mean, Pete can talk more about this, but in the meantime, since we had released it, the original camera negative was discovered. I can't remember exactly what was used for the first Blu-ray, but it was not the original camera negative. And given that, we thought, well, what the hey? It's sold fairly well for us. Well, why not? Why not do a 4K upgrade? So that's the first title, is a UHD version of Devil's Nightmare. Comes complete with a bunch of new extras too. So if you have the old Blu-ray disc, it's not just upgrading the video quality. There's a bunch of new stuff, including an interview with Erica Blank, the star.
An interview with Erica, who's complete. Will I get into trouble saying this? Is completely nuts. I mean, I think she's fantastic. We interviewed her 20 plus years ago, and she was such a character. She comes off odd in those old, for the interviews for the old Erotica TV series you did. Yeah, she's in one of those. smoking a pipe. You know?
Right.
I mean, she sort of said to us when she lit the pipe, she said, "Do you mind?" And I said, "No." I said, "No." And I thought, that's absolutely what I want to see. You know, Erica Blaine smoking a pipe. She's fantastic, and she's still active in the film, but mostly in theatre.
Does she still smoke a pipe? I'm just kidding.
She didn't in this interview, which somebody else did for us, but you'll see it when you see the interview. She's kind of she's very much her own woman. It's quite an interesting interview.
Nice.
But so there's that. One of the main things that we've got here, we've got a couple of really interesting pieces. We've got a profile of Daniel Emilfork, the actor who plays the devil in the film, and a friend of mine, Christophe Beer from Paris, did this. Who knew Emilfork and has made a film and done a book about him, a book I think anyway. And he did this kind of hour-long presentation, all done in one take, believe it or not, all about Emilfork, and it's fantastic. You learn an incredible amount about him. And then there's
one of the most distinctive faces in all of European cinema. You never forget.
No, you never forget. Even going back years and years and years, I would be watching films and I'd see him come up and I'd say, "Oh, it's that guy," but you never really knew any more about him other than he was that guy. And thanks to Christoph, now you know when you've seen that, you will know an awful lot about him. And the other thing is we've got the director of The Devil's Nightmare is nominally was a guy called Jean Brismet, who was a teacher at film school in Cannes, in Brussels, sorry. And he won an award at Cannes with a short film called Monsieur Plateau, which is about it's kind of a documentary educational thing. But I'd never seen it. But I saw some bits of it when we did the original release of this film, and I was always wanting to can we get hold of that documentary of that film, Monsieur Plateau? And in fact, that's going to be on the disc as well, and it's really terrific. I mean, it is like one of those sort of educational things that maybe they played in schools, but it's got this real weird, surreal, kind of approach to it, the way it's done. I think people are going to enjoy that a lot.
Amazing. And am I remembering right? This one, the Blu-ray release was not from the OCN, and now the 4K is from the OCN, right?
That's right. Yeah, we couldn't. They couldn't get the access to the. It was taken. Jared mentioned this. It was taken from. I think it was an inter-negative that was had bits missing and wasn't in very good condition. I mean, truth to tell, the original negs was not in very good condition, but it looks pretty. I was just checking some subtitles on it this afternoon, and I was thinking, this looks really good, So it's definitely a worthy upgrade. Like with all of these things, nothing's that old in film is ever perfect, is it? Because film is quite a delicate medium, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it looks really good.
Well, all that to say, it's not just an upgrade to the video quality, all these new extras, but also it is a hefty upgrade to the video quality. It's not that the Blu-ray looked awful, but by the time this disc gets in people's hands, I just looked it up, it will have been just about 7 years since the red case of that Blu-ray was released. And so it's a lot of stuff has happened since then. And to be able to put this on an OCN, this will look quite a bit better, guaranteed. I cannot wait to see this scan.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It should look. It's a very kind of visually striking movie, anyway. So
yes,
it's something that will benefit from this sort of upgrade. Yeah.
Well, speaking of visually striking and things about losing your heads, let's take a trip to Mystics in Bali and the double feature of that and Queen of Black Magic coming on Blu-ray for the first time. These films have to have a long journey in Pete's history, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember how I first saw these. I mean, both of them. Mystics in Bali was on Japanese VHS, wasn't it?
Mm.
And and Queen of Black Magic was released in the States, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
called something. Was it called Queen of
Black Magic Terror? I think it was called. Yeah,
that's it. So because at the time, there was in the 90s there was this kind of underground, tape exchanging kind of thing that we all know about, and came from, I suppose, to an extent. So I think I saw Witch with Flying Head, and I think I asked somebody. I said, "Have you got any more Flying Head films?" And they said, "Oh yeah, Mystics in Bali. You've got to see that." So that, I think, was how that one came about, because it was not ever available in the UK. And of course, it's kind of a long story with that one, because when we did our TV show in the 90s, on the 90s or 2000s, I can't remember, on UK TV Channel 4, one of the ones we pitched was doing a thing about Indonesian fantastical films, and in fact that documentary has been on at least one of our discs, and possibly two, possibly more than two.
Probably, I think it's been on several, yeah. But
yeah. Hey, but it's a good doc, isn't it? And so due to the TV money, we were able to go out to Indonesia, out to Jakarta, and actually talk to to Rappi Films and Soraya and so on, who were the producers of these movies, and that's how we. Andy, who's one of the original founders of Mondo Macabro, was very keen on getting those films, treated as well as we possibly could. So he twisted my arm, and I'm really glad he did. Now I'm really glad he did. He twisted my arm to actually get them to ship the negative, or both negatives, Queen of Black Magic and Mystics in Bali, over to the UK, and we were able to oversee the scanning of them. In fact, Mystics in Bali we did twice. It was originally they had Rappi had all their materials in storage in Hong Kong, and the first scan of Mystics in Bali, or a bit of a telecine, I suppose, that was done in Hong Kong. And when we got it, we didn't like it, didn't think it was very good, so we actually paid to have the negative shipped to the UK. It was very, very expensive, because there's insurance involved and so on, because obviously you don't want it to go missing. And the same with Queen of Black Magic. We had that done in London. I remember going and sitting with the grader, to get to get it looking good. And though subsequent to that, I think those negatives are those which we did return. I have to say that those negatives seem to have vanished. And certainly with Mystics in Bali, that's all that exists of that is our HD copy, which was done all those years ago. But it looks amazing, actually. To give you a kind of an idea, when we released the Warrior trilogy, the Warrior, the first film, was taken off another transfer that was done at the same time in the same lab. And it looked way better than the one that was sent to us by the company who owned the rights. So I'm fairly pleased with those. I'm pleased. At the time, I thought it's crazy, shipping these, bringing these, because we were releasing these things on DVD.
Right.
Bringing these things in, paying all the money to do that. What's the point?
And they were done in HD at the time.
They were scanned. That's the thing. Yeah, that's an important point. Yeah, because at the lab, I can remember saying to them, it's 25 years ago, or 20 years ago, I think. They were saying, "Oh, we'll do these on HD," and I was like, "Why? We're going to put them on DVD." And they said, "Oh, well, we're set up to do." This is what they said. They said we're set up to do everything on HD now, so you may as well have it anyway, and you can release it on whatever you want. And I'm really glad that we did that now, because that's how we can release these two films, and they do look superb, actually.
I imagine they do. Extras for these with double feature. You're still keeping lots of extras on the disc. We've got interview with the writer director. We've got audio commentary by David. Oh nope, I'm reading for the next one. Yep. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Introductions to both films by Joko Anwar, which fans of modern Indonesian horror will recognize that name, because he is everywhere seemingly lately. Love seeing his stuff. We've got video essay Monsters, Movies, and Myth by Jake Gallo, extended 2-hour version of Mystics in Bali. And this, Jared, you can expand on this. This is from like a German VCD cut or something, right?
No, I mean, this is like the original Indonesian cut of the film.
I meant the source, I guess, not the cut.
Yeah. So it's I'm actually, I don't know about the German thing. I believe it was like out as just a VCD, maybe from Indonesia itself, and that was maybe or VHS. It was that was the only way to see it for a long time. This longer cut, and I still haven't seen it yet, but from what I understand, I think it's just dialogue scenes. There's not really much more like gore or wild witchcraft stuff. Pete has spent many hours looking so he might be able to talk a bit more about that, but that's what I understand. And it is, from what I'm saying, I think we've just taken the HD master and just put in inserts from the VCD or VHS source that we were using for this. Yeah.
That's right, yeah, but matched up, so it's not too jarring, and it actually really does add something to the film. I mean, it turns it into a different film actually. It's very interesting. There's a lot of context, and there's a sort of subplot which was kind of visible in the shorter version of the film, the export version, but it's never really explained. You just have this young woman who turns up every now and then and has a conversation with the main guy. But that's now much clearer in the long version, and it's in Indonesian, and I had to subtitle it. Although we have to give thanks to Tom from the Indonesian Fan Project, who helped us so much on this one.
Yeah, he's helped us out with a bunch of different projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely essential. I knew this 2-hour version existed, but we had problems in finding a decent version. And I think actually this one was put together with 2 different VCDs and a VHS version. So it looks okay. It's very watchable, and I've watched it, like, as you were saying, dozens of times. I was doing the subs. So that's good. And getting Jocko on there was great. I mean, I'm really, really grateful for him doing that. It's funny how we met, actually, because again, it was, I make myself sound so old, because again, this was many, many years ago. I was at a film festival in Italy, and he was a guest. I don't think I even knew particularly who he was then. And he was being interviewed by these kind of serious film critics about in a sort of forum about the Indonesian films. And he said something, I don't remember exactly, but he said something like, if you really want to know about Indonesian popular cinema, you should have a look at this. And he held up the couple of things that we'd released. He said, this is Mondo Macabro from the UK that put these out. And when the thing had finished and he walked away, to go off, and I stopped him, I said, hi, Jocko, I'm Pete Toombs, the guy whose videos you were holding up. And he was like, oh, wow, amazing. And, we've kind of kept in touch ever since, but that was a real coincidence, the way these things happen. But he really helps to bring those films alive and to get a notion of how it was for people in Indonesia watching these films, how they consumed those movies, because I think that's a very different thing for us, watching these films, the kind of exotic aspects of it, what probably attracts us. And obviously that would have been very different to people who grew up in Indonesia within that culture. Their appreciation of those films and what they meant to them. So in fact, I think his story of going and tracking down these films when he was a kid is pretty similar, I think, to what I was saying about going to this flea pit cinema and seeing these third-run films, obscure films we didn't know what they were. That's a similar kind of thing. And he mentioned some of that in his introductions, which is nice.
That's awesome. So now the one that I was getting ahead of myself on, one that I have had a couple different people bring up to me that they are most excited about so far out of the titles that have been announced. We've got Island of the Doomed, a.k.a. Island of the Dead, a.k.a. Man-Eater of Hydra.
And on and on and on. There's probably about a dozen other titles. Yeah.
There's a few more, I think. Yeah. Coming to Blu-ray for the first time, and this sounds so great. Pete, tell us about the Man-Eater of Hydra, and why it's a Mondo Macabro title.
Well, it is, isn't it? If you watch it, But I kind of it's a real spin-off, really. This kind of thing. I was aware of the film, but I got into that with by meeting the director, Mel Wells, the writer-director of that film. Again, God, here we go again. Many years ago, there was he was at a horror festival in Manchester, which is the north of England, and I don't think I've been in touch with him before. We had a sort of connection because we did a thing about Michael Reeves, the Witchfinder General guy.
Yeah.
And Mel knew him and was in his first film, She-Beast. I think he plays 2 roles in it, actually. So I kind of knew that there was a connection between some of the stuff we'd done and Mel Wells. But the main reason I wanted to talk to Mel was that and again, this is a tangent, and I'll cut this one down. There's a guy called Lord Buckley. I don't know. Do you know who Lord Buckley was? Does that mean anything? He was an American. He was a kind of a stand-up. You could call him a stand-up comedian. He was a performer who started in the 30s, I think, and died sometime in the 60s. And he has this kind of. If you look him up, you'll find him, Lord Buckley, and he used to do these monologues, these amazing, crazy monologues. The Naz was one of his. The Gasser and all this stuff, and he had this kind of beatnik. He dressed like a colonel in the Bengal Lancers or something over the pith helmet and stuff, and he had this big moustache, and he did this booming kind of English kind of voice, although he's American, I think. And I latched onto him at a very early stage. I mean, it's a long story, and we haven't got time to talk about it, but I always had it at the back of my mind that the Lord Buckley story, that a film about it would be great, and I kind of was gathering information about it and trying to put together a proposal for a film. I mean, sadly, the person that we wanted to play him was Robin, who's the comedian who died some years ago.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
Oh, wow.
Because apparently he could do he could do the Richard Buckley monologues, kind of in the voice of and with all the gestures and things.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So anyway, so I was collecting stuff about Mel Wells. So when we saw that he was in this, this festival in Manchester, I phoned them up and said, "Can we come and interview Mel Wells?" And they said, "Absolutely. He'd be pleased to see you." And indeed he was, and he was a lovely guy. And we talked about the first question. I'll give you an illustration of and this is in the interview that's on the disc. The first question was, because I knew he'd worked a lot in Spain and in Italy in particular, and was dubbing films into English. That's my first question was, "Are you an American guy? How did you come to be in Europe?" And his answer went on for about 40 minutes, full of fantastic, interesting, and funny stories. It's sort of almost impossible to believe some of what he said, but I know it was true. Weirdly, we didn't really talk to him about his films. Island of the Doomed is mentioned, but very much in passing, because we were chasing something else. But when and this was 20 years ago, he's been dead for that long, I think. So when we were putting out this film, I thought, hey, I've got this Mel Wells interview. I can't remember what's on it. Let's go and say he must say something about Island of the Doomed, and indeed he does. But basically it's a presentation of who this crazy guy was, and he talks a lot about his working with Richard Buckley. And working on Italian films and stuff, and it's a great story. It's like if you're interested in to know what that kind of world of popular cinema was like in the late 50s and through the 60s, there's a hell of a lot in that interview that will give you stuff that will interest you. The fact that it's not about Island of the Doom is neither here nor there. Though he does mention the film, and he gives a kind of and he uses it as part of an illustration of what he likes, why he likes horror movies, and why he wanted to make horror movies. So it is. So, but yeah, it just came up, Island of the Doomed. I think, Jared, we talked about it quite some while ago, didn't we?
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. It's on a list of available films from a licensor that we've worked with a lot. So it's come up a lot, and we keep going, oh yeah, we should do that one. And just luckily, no one else snapped it up to do it. Maybe because there doesn't really seem to be a negative for that one either. So we had to, use 35 millimeter materials, but print materials. But yeah, it's something we talked about for a long time, and I'm pleased with the reaction to it. There've been a few people who are like literally like, this is the holy grail. Yep. It seems to be it's older guys. It's like guys in their 50s and 60s who have been watching this stuff forever.
Yearning for this for a long time.
Yeah, that seem to be really, really excited. But there are people who are really excited about it, which is great.
It is a fun film. I mean, obviously, I've watched it again hundreds of times because syncing up the audio and Spanish subtitles and all that stuff. But it really, once you get into it, it's a lot of fun. And it's really nicely shot, and it looks great from our from the materials that we had. I think it's polished up really nicely. The colours are really, really vivid. It says on the print, it says Technicolor, but apparently I'm told that it was not actually. It was just the materials were produced by Technicolor. It wasn't produced in the 3-strip Technicolor style,
Right.
But its colours are really, really bright and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And there's some interesting documentaries on there. There's one about George Martin, who's the main male lead in it, and then one about all the other kind of horror or fantastical films that were produced in that same area, that same part of Spain, which again is something probably not a lot of people know about. So that gives a little bit more context to it.
Not only that, I mean, would go well with that box set that Severin is putting out later this year, just for more Spanish culture of film. It'd be an interesting double for somebody. With the rest of this disc, there is a commentary from David Flint as well.
That's right, yeah.
And anything else on Man-Eater of Hydra, Island of the Doomed, Island of the Dead?
Let's look at the list. Well, we got the trailer, and that's the original trailer, which I'd never seen before. And the original trailer is in like 185, isn't it? Whereas the film that we're putting out is definitely 235 scope ratio.
I think somebody asked me that, and I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, it's 235 or 230, whatever. It's proper widescreen scope, and it looks great because obviously I'd seen. This is a film. It's only exactly as you said. It's only ever really been out in very poor quality copies, and people review them. Another one would come out because it's considered to be PD, I think, although it isn't. And they'd say, "Oh well, this isn't perfect, but it's better than the last one that came out." Well, I think this one is really, really really good and kicks all those into touch. And just seeing it in that widescreen format makes such a lot of difference. Opens it out and everything. And yeah, what else can you say? Why? I don't know why the trailer is 185 and the film is 235. I mean, I guess maybe in those days when trailers was played in cinemas, weren't they, before the main features? Maybe it was just cheaper to process a film like that. I don't know. I don't no idea. But the film is definitely in proper widescreen.
Good. And that means we've got 2 left to cover. One was just announced as of today's recording. One that I think a lot of people have been wanting an HD upgrade for. Excited for this one. Jared, tell us about Oswang.
Oswang, or if you were shopping in a Best Buy in America, you would see it and go, Asswang.
With that specific twang, yes.
That looks great. Asswang.
Isn't that the way? Isn't that how you're supposed to say it?
Yeah. Oswang. I think the cover actually has there's a little pronunciation thing. Oswang. Yeah. Yeah, great. It's really neat to have this one back out. This is an old school for all the really old school Mondo Macabro fans. This was on DVD. This was maybe a first year of Mondo Macabro in the U.S. release, maybe, or first or second year. This one goes way back.
September of 2003.
Wow.
Way.
Wow. Yeah. So 22 years. And it's been out of print for a long time. So, and it honestly, it's not one that I get asked about a ton, but I do get asked about it. So it's really cool to have it come back home, and be able to do it. And, we've got a new 4K scan from the original, 16 millimeter negative. So, it's very exciting. This is essentially, I mean, it's all the same extras, I think, that were on the DVD, I think.
It is.
Okay, I'm not sure if there's anything else, but it just having it back out there is...
There's a text, there's a book.
Of course, yeah.
Done by Chris Halleck, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the extra things, but it's, a really intriguing little film, an American film, which we don't do a ton of American stuff, but it's an American film about like a Filipino myth, a Filipino vampire myth. So it ties in well with our overall branding and the feel of the film. It's a Mondo Macabro film for sure.
Very much so. Fun little gory movie.
Yeah.
And that means we've got only one left in our slate. Pete, since I don't even know what this one is yet, would you like to share what the fifth title being announced for the Halloween sale is?
Am I allowed to say this?
Yeah, I think this will go out after. I've got this guy tomorrow morning.
There's this guy called Jared who's giving me a hard time if I say things that I'm not supposed to say. He's an absolute beast.
Why is he running his finger across his neck like that? I think he's threatening something.
Well, there you go. You see, you've got to protect me here. We're talking about Inquisition, aren't we?
Yeah, Paul Naschy's Inquisition.
It's a big one.
UHD.
Yeah. And I mean, we had this one out again. It's another one we had out before, but it was, it was okay the way it looked before, but it was. I think it was graded and processed in a slightly strange way. It looks much better now. It looks very different now. I mean, it took me a while to get used to it. I was like, wow, it's just the same film. Yeah, it's the same film. But you can actually see what's going on now. You couldn't always before. It's definitely, it was one that definitely needed revisiting. And we've done that. And I mean, we've got, I think it's mostly we've got a couple of new interviews on that as well. I mean, there's an interview with Sergio Molina, who's Jacinto's son, Paul Nash's son, and an interview with Loretta Tovar, who's an actress who was in, when you see the film, you'll know exactly who she is. She was in a lot of films around that time, 60s, 70s, and possibly into the 80s. I don't know her career that well, but that's pretty good to get that. Obviously, an introduction by Paul Naschy, which was, taken from a previous release. Because sadly he's no longer here.
Yeah.
But and in fact Daniela Giordano as well, who's also sadly not with us. So
you were good friends with Daniela, weren't you, Pete?
Yeah. We went and stayed with her and in Sicily and kept in touch with her over the years. And I really liked her. She was a nice woman. Yeah.
Nice.
And this was her favourite film of all the films she made. I mean, this was the only one she said where she was actually directed properly. Because I think because she'd been like a Miss Italy. So she had that kind of look, and I think that's all they hired her for. But she was really one of the most intelligent. I'd almost say one of the most intelligent women one of the most intelligent people I've met, and very, very interesting person to spend time with. But none of that comes out, or little of that comes out in most of the films that she made. But I think with this one, it does. You see her spirit, and she certainly appreciated. The way that Naschy directed the film and her. And, he sometimes gets, or he did sometimes get this kind of thing about, he's always, he's a bit like, Captain Kirk in Star Trek, and he always gets the girl, But, she had no problems with that. It was in the script, and it was, part of the deal and all the rest of it. But she said he was really respectful and all the rest of it. He wasn't, kind of pinch her ass all the time and stuff like that,
That's relieving to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Because it's right. That's a funny thing about Paul Naschy movies is that, he's writing the script, sometimes directing the movie. And of course, he always gets to make out with at least one of the beautiful women in the movie, if not like 3 or 4 of the women in the movie.
Yeah, well, it's good being the king. Huh?
It is, yeah.
It's funny because I remember we interviewed Paul a long, long time ago, and in Spain, and one of the questions that I asked was, I don't know what this interview was for, I can't remember, but one of the questions was, can you talk about the female stars you've had in your films? And he relished it and went, into great detail. And his son and his wife were there in the interview, listening to it. And there was no problem there at all because, they obviously knew this is he's a star, he's the male lead of the film, and their love scenes and all the rest of it, and that's part of the job. And I'm pretty sure. And I heard very different stories from Daniela about working in Turkey, for example. Where she said it was just, she couldn't go out in the street, because guys would come up and pinch her ass, and doing all kinds of stuff, and you never got that from Paul. So so there you go. Neither of them are around to defend themselves, so I have to.
Yeah. And it's, honestly, like, I'm glad we're doing it. And I don't know if some people will be like, oh, just another upgrade, but it's one that I personally think really needed it. Yeah. And I think one of the things that it's made me the most happy about working with Mondo Macabro. It's been able to sort of increase the legacy of Paul Naschy by getting his films out there. I find a lot of pleasure in his films, and the films that he starred in, so the films that he wrote, the films that he directed. He just has had a very unique sensibility, and I'm couldn't be happier to kind of get his stuff out there and hopefully turn new people on. And hopefully this new beautiful 4K restoration will, help turn a few more heads towards Paul Naschy's work.
Well, and just speaking from the outside looking in, Paul Naschy stuff, I mean, even the first release of Inquisition on Blue from Mondo was 8.5 years ago now. And a lot of appreciation for Paul Naschy has exploded really only in like the last 4 or 5 years. There are a lot of people that were not around this stuff that could even be, privy to that film being released on Blu-ray in 2017, let alone actually appreciating it. With things like the Naschy Cast and Arrow and all these other companies that have put out some films with Paul Naschy involved. Now there's like a catalog of items that people can go look through, many of them through Mondo Macabro, thankfully, and appreciate some of those films. And yeah, it's really neat that people can discover on the highest quality possible Inquisition, which to me is one of the better ones.
Yeah, I think Inquisition was if it wasn't the first, and it probably wasn't, it was one of the first Naschy movies on Blu-ray. It sort of started a brief sort of Naschy-essence. Yeah. That sort of took hold, and there were a few things, but then we've sort of kept the torch alive through the years, especially doing films that he directed, which were sort of very underrepresented.
Although The Frenchman's Garden, which we did some years ago, which he rated as his best film, hasn't particularly sold, has it? I mean, it's done okay, but it hasn't run out of the door.
Yeah, not really, and and that's the case with some of them. But I think I agree. I think that's one of his best movies. I think that and Devil Incarnate, aka the El Caminante, those are two of his absolute best movies. And I think just two great movies, period. Even if you aren't into that sort of the quote unquote cheesy Euro horror stuff. Those are quality films, and he should have been proud of them because they're great.
Yeah, he's
amazing.
There's a broad range of stuff, isn't there, with Nashi? I remember the one that surprised me most, because I had seen it on VHS, was the Beast and the Magic Sword. When we did that, because that really, that's a pretty epic film, isn't it? Those big battle scenes and stuff. I was
It is.
very, very impressed that he got that together, and there's a kind of a mystery, isn't there, about this Japanese connections with Nashi. And I've never really, I don't think I've talked to his son about it, maybe because he was very young at the time. And I've tried my best to find out, from people, how exactly did it happen? How did Paul Nashi, he'd had success in America and so on, and in Europe, but how did he come to make this connection in Japan? And he was hired to do a documentary about a big museum in Madrid. This is not intended to put him down in any sense, but he wouldn't necessarily be the first person you'd think of to do that.
Yeah. I just wondered if his films weren't sort of popular at some point in Japan, maybe in the very early days of video or something. I don't know. That is a good question.
But I'm glad it happened, because some of those Japanese funded films are some of the best ones he made, aren't they? Yeah,
it was Human Beasts. Is that another one of those that has that's right. A couple of Japanese actors in it, and maybe maybe a few scenes filmed in Japan as well.
Yes, I can't remember, but yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So those are the new titles. Jared, how about the actual sale aspect? What are the details here? How long are we looking at? What's the sale discounts? How much are you going to charge for shipping to people in Tanzania? All the details that people are dying to know.
We have a huge audience base in Tanzania.
Oh no, it's just a huge audience in Canada and the UK and Scandinavia, and those are the only countries we really ship to. It seems like. Don't expect too big of I am going to discount some of the shipping, just because that is something that. I mean, we'll probably I'll lose a little bit of money on that actually, but. I think it's worthwhile, and it's just one of those things where it's just so expensive to ship overseas. So it seems like a nice thing to cut that down a little bit. Now, I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be mind-blowingly low shipping rates or anything, but it will be cheaper than it usually is. And then when things come back, it will be more expensive. I'm sorry to say, it's hugely expensive to ship anything. It's get more and more expensive to ship in the U.S. But there will be some discounts, probably a bigger discount for domestically, just because it's a bit more affordable.
Slightly less.
And even then it's not going to be much, but it'll be something. And then pretty much everything will be discounted on the sale. We'll have some newer, retail editions up on the site for the first time, including 2 titles from the now out of print Bollywood horror box set, Purana Mandir and Virana. Those will be
ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we started with those for a reason. Yeah. So those will be up on the site. Those will be not a huge amount off, but they'll be, I mean, usually we have the retail Blu-rays for like $20. So there'll be a couple bucks knocked off of that, $18 or something. And a couple of other things. The Punishment will be on, the Cafe Flesh 4K will be up on the site for the first time. Those are all recent releases. So those will all be a little bit cheaper. And then, as older releases will become more cheaper. And a bunch of them will be at least 50% off the MSRP. So stuff around $15 or more or so for some of the older stuff, and even some cheaper for some of the things that maybe don't sell super well, just to, try and move them. And then also some of the limited editions that we still have in stock. I'm going to knock a few bucks off of those. So if there's any of those that people are, holding off on, not purchased yet, it's a good chance. I'll knock a couple of bucks off Eva Man. That's one that I think more people should definitely be seeing. So
How has that not sold out yet?
I don't know. I've still got quite a. I mean, it's sold okay. I mean, it's sold all right. And I think the retail edition is out and has probably started selling okay. But it's one that I think more people should see. And maybe it's something because it is more of like a sex comedy thing, sort of almost. Although it's more than that. Maybe some people are just hesitant because they just don't think it's going to be fun. But they're wrong.
They certainly are. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. Both of the movies are fun, and you should just make a long night of it. Watch both of them back to back. Yeah, they're both really fun. It's not the story doesn't continue so much in the second one as it is retold in a very weird way, but it's worthwhile it's a worthwhile experience to see them both.
And good extras on that disc as well. You know, the Ian's piece and a fantastic interview with Eva.
Yeah, one of the best interviews. Very interesting person. Yeah, I thought that was a really, really neat extra to have on there. As far as I know, no one's ever interviewed her for any of the other things. I mean, I guess the only really cult item that she really ever did was Tenebrae, and I don't know if she's ever been interviewed for her work on Tenebrae, even though she has a small but important part in that movie.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, but she's terrific, and then there's the piece on Vegeta as well, the long analysis of Vegeta's career.
Yeah, who's someone of endless fascination for anyone who's been looking at this stuff for years. I don't know how you couldn't be fascinated by her and the films that she was in.
Right.
Yeah, and that's somebody else that I've been carrying around for a long time. This notion that if you were gonna, if somebody should make a film about Vegeta Wilson. I mean,
they should. I've had that same thought.
Yeah, it's difficult. Maybe we get have a meeting with RuPaul. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe so.
I'm serious. Serious.
Yeah.
I think I have seen that her name popping up in some more academic kind of pieces and so on cinema. So people are starting to notice. Yeah. I mean, I've interviewed quite a number of people that worked with her, and they all have that same, which Eva says actually in the interview. There's something mysterious about her. There's a whole area of the unknown around Vegeta, and that is intriguing, isn't it?
It is. There does seem to be still some mystery about about her background and how she even came to be in the industry. There's a story yet to be told. About
for sure.
Oh.
And on that note,
Ryan, you're on mute.
I am. That's what I get for shifting my body. Sale starts this Thursday. Everything should be live then at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard.
12 noon Eastern. Google what time that is where you live.
I've got a long list. I was about to list the Tanzania time.
Yeah, don't. I don't know what time it is in Sydney. I'm sorry. Someone will ask inevitably. Just Google it. But yeah, 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's, when I'm getting out of bed. So that's when I'll just click live. And don't be afraid. Tomorrow I will be turning off the big cartel. It'll go into maintenance mode. So no one freak out. If you listen to this podcast and it's still down when you go, it will be up at 9 a.m. sharp my time. So, and I have tons of work to do. It's a very busy day for me tomorrow. I have tons of stuff to set up and fix tomorrow. So let me have that time. Nobody write annoying emails asking me stupid questions. No one asks stupid questions.
We don't need to just outright lie to people. There's all kinds of stupid questions.
You're asking stupid questions. Just
how long is the sale running for?
So it'll run through the 3rd. So Monday the 3rd will be the last full day. And at some point on the 4th, after I wake up and wipe the sleep from my eyes, I'll turn it off again, and the big cartel will go into maintenance mode again for a few days until I sort of square up everything, and then it'll be back up, and then I think probably the week after the sale, I will begin doing the fulfillment of sale-only orders, and that means just stuff that doesn't have a pre-order in it. So if it's in stock at that time, that fulfillment will begin at that time, about roughly a week after. Maybe a little bit earlier. Just depends on what else is going on. And please and I ask that people just give me some time. These are complicated mail outs, doing the sales stuff, because every order is different. So I can't do stuff in bulk. So it's very much just doing like one at a time. And that just takes time. So at least, give me 2 or 3 weeks to get all that stuff out. And it should be noted that this is starting in the holiday season. So already mail is going to be, it's possible anyway, mail is going to be a little bit slower for everywhere, including domestic as well as international. So just give a little bit more leeway for that. And then
it's also going to be hard to maneuver with all of the employees in the warehouse that you're working around for this.
Like I just keep bumping into people all the time. Yeah, it's just me all by my lonesome. Although, shout out to my wife Erica, who does help out too. She packs orders too. Although mostly with the pre-order mail outs, because I'll just give her like a single title to do 2 or 3 pages of. So basically the sale is basically just going to be me fulfilling. And then I should also mention that the pre-orders, now cross your fingers, everybody. Everybody here, everybody in this little chat, also cross your fingers and your toes. We'll start that fulfillment in January. That's when we're shooting for. Now, we've had obviously some trouble the last couple of years, and we've gotten some shit for it, and maybe it's been deserved, although some of it I don't think was quite deserved. But we have to fess up. Stuff was turned in late, but things are moving on schedule right now. Unless Pete Pete can off air tell me if there's something any sort of disasters that have come up that might delay things. But
I did not hear
my lips are sealed.
Yeah. So January, it should be hopefully like second, third week of January, probably running a little bit into February. And then the good news is that we should have a couple of really cool releases right for the new year in February, going on sale in February, probably shipping in March. So,
and I think I know what they are.
I think so. Yeah, Black Magic. We can say because we've already soft announced one of them. Black Magic with Buddha is what we're shooting for. But we're still in producing a lot of extras, and I think a few things are still being worked out with the HD masters of both cuts of the film. There's going to be 2 cuts. So.
It's UHD, and it's 4K.
Yeah, and I guess that's, we can go ahead and say that. I think we are going to do UHD. Yeah. And it should be out with another sort of long time passion project of Pete's, but maybe we'll hold off on talking about that one for just now.
Probably should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I think, a really great slate, especially for people that are either new to Mondo Macabro and have never seen any of the older releases, or love these and able to get the best releases that these films will likely ever have. Pretty great time to check out some old catalog titles. Pretty great time in general for physical media, and one of the main reasons is Mondo Macabro. So thank you both.
Yeah, that's how I put bread on the table. So I'm happy I can at least keep doing it for a little while longer.
Oh, you're still eating bread? I thought you were on a cake diet already. Cake and caviar.
Yeah, right. Yeah, on my yacht. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is this the new yacht you just got?
Yeah. I've got another one just sitting in the harbor. Yeah, but.
All right. Well, Pete, thank you again for hanging out with us today. I know this is a rare commodity, and I'm grateful that we could be graced with your presence. And I do mean that. It sounds sort of condescending, but truly, like, it's wonderful to hear from one of the godfathers of this stuff. For many people, it's a handful of people, and Pete Toombs is absolutely in the conversation for that.
Oh, I'm blushing. Thank you for your kind words and for your help and everything. I mean, really appreciate it.
We are happy to. Everybody, obviously share this with your friends. Share this with anybody that's interested in Mondo Macabro. And until the next episode, stay safe. We'll see you then.
The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small, and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description